It's being
Okay.
recorded. Yeah.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, good, Melissa. How are
Good.
you?
I'm really excited to talk to you, even though we've already been kind of chatting for a while. But
Yeah.
you're one of my most favorite people. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, right back at you. Good
Thanks.
grief.
I'm very excited.
Yeah,
But
me too.
like a lot of my listeners don't know you, and so I'm wondering
Sure.
if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
I'm Steve, and I'm married. Laura and I've been married for 20 years this year. We're
Wow.
coming up on our 20th anniversary. Yeah, Laura thought it was last year, so she was getting all
Oh, that's
excited
awkward.
and starting to plan. And I'm like, hun, I checked, and it was 19.
Oop,
So we had a great 19th,
that's
and
good.
now we're thinking about our 20th.
That's funny.
Yeah, and we have 4 kids who are this is so fun because you're catching me right in the window where their ages are easy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For 2 months. So we have 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Now define easy. No.
Oh,
You mean
only
like
easy to
easy to
remember the
remember?
ages. Nothing else about them is easy. I wouldn't be on this podcast if I had easy children. Yeah. No,
That's
in
funny.
2 months, we have 2 birthdays. One, Lexi's birthday is coming up, and no, sorry, we just had Lexi's. We have Ashton's, and then a week later we have Gage's in March, and then all the birthdays get mixed up. So for 10 months of the year, I have to stop and go, wait, okay, we
Yeah.
have
How old are
2
you?
15-year-olds
Yeah.
or 2 16-year-olds, and then everyone thinks we have twins, and we're like, no,
No.
don't have twins.
Yeah.
So it gets,
Yeah.
adoption makes your ages funny.
Yeah.
So 14,
Yeah.
15, 16, 17, they're all at the same
Okay.
high school, Melissa.
Oh my gosh.
Hallelujah.
Wow.
Yeah.
In theory, they're all at the same
Okay.
high
In
school
theory, and at this moment, I can't guarantee. I can't
that
guarantee
they're
that
all
they're all
there,
in
but
physically in the school, but they're enrolled. 4
they're
4 enrolled.
enrolled in the same high
Yeah.
school.
I checked this morning, they're all enrolled. Yeah.
That's funny. You also have a doggy. Tell me about your
Oh,
doggy.
yeah, I have a dog, she's trauma dog,
Okay.
and she
Do you
came,
like how I'm excited about this? Okay.
yeah. A trauma dog. Yeah. No, I mean, her story really does play in. Yeah, her name's Sadie. She is going on 9 years old,
Okay.
and we got her at 4 years old. And yeah, she's trauma dog, rescue dog,
Mm-hmm.
short-haired English pointer. So she points at
Yeah.
everything. And
Oh,
yeah,
and she's so
and
cute.
she's very cute and
Yeah.
also mean. And
Oh,
she's having her little PTSD
what are
stuff.
you gonna
So
do?
what are you gonna do? You get trauma
Yeah.
informed, and it's not just for your kid.
I know, it's
Yeah.
so true, actually. So true. We got a puppy last year and she's 9 months old now. And it's
Yeah,
so true. I'm like, oh yeah, but I have to
right.
do all the
Oh, it
yeah,
is, yeah,
it's fine though.
totally.
Yeah.
No, she's right here at my feet, so she might speak
Oh,
up at some
okay.
point. No.
Perfect. Okay, so I just, before we jump into like the important stuff, although you might say this is important,
Mhm.
tell me about sourdough.
Oh, sourdough. Okay,
Yeah.
love talking about sourdough. I had a 1-hour sourdough consult phone call this morning. That's how much I'm into
What? Like
yeah,
somebody
and
needed your help?
no, I needed somebody else's help.
Oh,
Yeah, so I called, like, my guru who got me into
okay.
this, and they got me into this before COVID, so I always have to
Okay.
say, like, I'm not one of those COVID sourdough
Yeah.
people,
Yeah,
nothing
you're
against
real.
them, but I'm real, like, I was
Yeah.
doing this before COVID,
Yeah.
and it took me years to get it down, and then you tweak something, and that's why I'm calling this guy, like, "Hey, I wanna
Oh,
tweak this, and how do I do this?" and all that, but no, I mill my own flour and get it
what?
going. Yeah, I'm super
You
strict,
have a
like,
flour mill?
I have a flour mill, totally. I mill, like, ancient grains and mix them up
Oh
and stuff
my
like that.
gosh.
Yeah, I'm serious,
Why am I
it's
not surprised?
insane.
That's
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah, and it's great. So actually, that's a good way to talk about our living situation because when I make sourdough we live
Yeah.
with our 4 kids, obviously.
Yep.
They live with us, and then we live with 23 college students as
Yes.
well, which
Wow.
we can come back to,
Yep.
but because that's a lot of trauma-informed
Yeah.
stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But, like, when I make sourdough, I put it out and it lasts, like, maybe
30
an hour.
seconds. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, some days it's like
Yeah.
and it's just
Gone.
gone. But it's one of my favorite things to do is put
Yeah.
warm bread out and then just put on our group text, like, "There's warm sourdough
Oh
downstairs,"
my
and all of a sudden
gosh.
people just show up,
Like, what are the
and
rules?
and
Would
our
I be
kids do.
allowed to take an entire loaf to myself and just take it back up to my
No.
room and eat
I'm like,
it? No.
well,
Darn it.
no. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm like, "Just, couple slices,
Okay. All
make a
right.
sandwich, make some toast." But
Yeah.
yeah. So far,
Wow.
nobody's like stolen a whole loaf. That'd be
That's what
pretty.
I would do.
That's
I'd hide it under my shirt and run up
totally
the stairs.
No,
Um,
I love it. It's great. It's such a once you get it down, it's weird. It's a weird, hard
yeah,
process to figure out.
I tried
Once
to
you
figure
get
it
it,
out. I
right?
failed.
I know I did too. I failed a lot. But once you get it, it's like, oh, I don't even look at the recipe. Like I just do it and it's meditative and it's like prayerful and there's these weird like, oh, it's time to do this fold thing or turn it over or whatever. And like it just punctuates my day when I do
Yeah.
it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of grounds me. It's grounding.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a grounding exercise.
Man,
Yeah.
it was not grounding for me. It was very activating to my nervous system. It made me very angry.
Triggering. Were you
Yes,
triggered by
it was
sourdough?
awful.
Yeah.
So I quit. I threw it away. I threw the whole jar away.
Oh, wow, you really were like, "I'm I'm done,
Done.
finished."
I did keep the spatula. I kept the spatula because it was a
Okay,
good
alright.
spatula. Threw everything else away.
That's hilarious.
So
Oh, that's
I don't know. Maybe I'll try again someday, but
you could always come back.
I
You could always come
maybe we'll see. See. Now, if you ever need to just send me through the mail some sourdough bread,
There you go. There
because
you
you
go.
don't live near me, but
I
it's
know,
fine.
it'd be pretty bad by the time it got
Yeah,
to you.
I
Yeah.
know. Okay, so
Yeah.
tell me about your college students.
Yeah, so Lauren and I, we're co-directors of the Alpha Omega House,
Okay.
which is where I'm at right now, and it's existed for 20. This is the 24th year because it
Okay.
started in 2000, and it's an old frat house, like 100-year-old frat house, and it in 2000, friends of mine that I did Young Life with when I was here as a college student in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
in 2000 they started this house, and they just wanted a Christian environment for college students, whether they were Christian or not, but just like a
Mm-hmm.
Christian environment. And so the house is Christian kids, not Christian kids,
Mm-hmm.
men, women, gay, straight, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody can live here as long as they're going to be, as long as they're okay living in a house that's based around Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to believe any of it. They can question all of it. They can be another faith, even whatever, as long as they're just going to like live into the ways of Jesus, or at least into talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
While they live here. So we keep requirements really low. You're in a small group that meets once a week, like a
Mm,
Bible study or book group. We do a retreat once a semester.
fun.
Um, Beyond that, it's like just living together and doing life, right? And
Yeah.
figuring out chores and fun things and not fun things and
Yeah.
the highs and lows of living with young adults.
Yeah.
Uh, it's pretty awesome. It's very unique. It's hard to find people that are doing what we're doing, and
Yeah.
especially doing what we're doing with teenagers.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a pretty unique situation, but it's pretty awesome. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
That's really
and wild.
cool.
Yeah.
I have so many questions about that. Do you guys do you live in the same house or do you have your own
Yeah, we
house?
do. Yeah, no, we live in the house. Yeah,
Okay.
so we all live here. We have an apartment that's in the house on the first floor of the house.
Okay.
So we do have our private space.
Yeah.
And sometimes we invite students back, and especially if we're going to meet with somebody privately, we'll invite them back and stuff. So it's not like students don't come back here, but in general, it's our family space is the apartment. It's not very
Okay.
big, but we all have bedroom space here. Our boys all share one room, which they do not love.
Yeah.
Our daughter has her own room, which she
Yeah.
does love. We
Yeah.
have and a couple bathrooms and like this room I'm in now is like our office, kitchen, living room, meeting room,
Okay.
all
All
the
of it.
things.
Yep.
But then we also live in the rest of the house. Like we eat dinner out there. We have a
Yeah.
cook, a wonderful chef who cooks dinner. I know how
What?
seriously spoiled.
I
This is
can't
where every
even.
listener is like, I'm done with this
I know,
guy.
turning it off.
He has a private chef. Yeah.
Wait,
So
come
but we
back.
do. Yeah, we have a chef. He cooks dinner. So we're all, we eat in the same dining room. When we do cook, we cook with in the same space,
Yeah.
living room. So our kids are like, sometimes they're just chilling in our private
Yeah.
space. Sometimes they're
They
out with
come
the
out.
college students. They
Yeah.
can go back and forth. It would not work if we didn't have this private space.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to have that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also living in the rest of the house, same
Yeah.
laundry room and
Oh,
TV room
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So,
Interesting. How
yeah.
fun.
It
How
is fun.
fun.
It is fun. It's
Yeah.
24/7. It's everything you think it would be and then just dial it up.
Yeah. I
Right?
feel like John would love to do something like that.
I could so see John doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, I could
So
so see John doing this. Yeah.
maybe,
There you
I don't
go.
know. Maybe it's in our future. And
I mean,
sourdough.
seriously.
I
And
mean,
sourdough. Yeah, you could come be mentored in sourdough. Yeah. No, it's a
Oh my
great setup, and we
gosh.
love Missoula.
Yeah.
Love living next to campus. We've always loved the energy of college students. When Laura
Yeah.
and I met, she was running a dorm at Seattle Pacific
Okay.
University.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that. And so,
I
and
do.
I moved in. Like we moved our like post honeymoon, we like came home to the dorm that we were
Yeah.
living in.
Yeah.
So we've kind of been doing this since we
The
started,
whole. Yep. Hmm.
and now we're back, like living with college students. It seems to be what the word keeps bringing us back
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's fun.
Um, okay, so let's pivot. Tell
All right.
me about, just tell me as much as you want to share about how you became trauma informed.
Oh yeah. Um, Definitely wasn't. I mean, nobody's born trauma informed,
Right.
right? Um, so how did I get trauma informed? It was definitely not with our first two kids. We
Hmm.
adopted one from birth,
Okay.
kind of your typical domestic agency adoption thing.
Hmm.
Um, and then we adopted a second who he was 17 months old when he came with us, and that was a kinship adoption. So a
Hmm.
little bit different.
Hmm.
Um, that one had more trauma to it.
Hmm.
And I would say Laura was starting to get trauma informed,
Okay.
and I really wasn't.
Hmm.
I should have been, because I should
Hmm.
have recognized like this one's going to be different. This one has some trauma to it, but I really didn't. So
Hmm.
that was a that was a miss for me. Um, Really, honestly, Melissa, it was when we adopted our what we call our new two, which is a
Hmm.
full sibling pair, one girl, one boy, and they were 9 and 10 when they come with us,
Hmm.
came to live with us. And then it was crash course in trauma because that had
Yeah.
trauma all over it, and then it was time. Then it was like that's when we met you.
Hmm.
That's when we started the uh, trauma informed parenting stuff
Hmm.
and reading the books and going to the seminars, and yeah, that's when it started.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Was
big
it,
time. Yeah.
was it kind of just like how did you shift from seeing this as trauma as opposed to where you were before?
Right, because nothing was working. You
Okay.
know, like
Yeah.
all the stuff that we I think at that point even we were pretty love and logicy at
Yeah.
that point
Yeah.
with our parenting style, and it's not like that always worked because
Yeah.
sometimes even with our first two, like that wasn't working, especially when trauma would
Hmm.
come up, even though it wasn't like high level. Oh, that's not working right now. What's going on? So I feel like the question was there, and then when the new two came, it was like, oh, nothing's post honeymoon here,
Yeah.
right? Once the
Totally.
honeymoon was over, it's like nothing's working, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And we had dipped it, like we were starting on the TBRI stuff at
Hmm.
that point. So at least I'm really glad that we weren't lost without any resources at
Hmm.
that point, but we
Yeah.
still had to learn the resources. And I just remember that with I mean, oh my gosh, I mean, TBRI was like godsend for
Hmm.
us, right? But it was also like I could only implement like one thing at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It was so
It's slow.
consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the trauma was so consuming, and the trauma parenting was so consuming.
Hmm.
I honestly just couldn't even remember things
Yeah.
more than like one thing at a time, you
Yeah.
know. But I feel like, Melissa, what's her name? I know she's gone. Who's our TBRI
Oh, Karen,
founder?
Karen Purvis.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like I needed her just off stage a little bit, like whispering a line to me now and
Yeah.
then, like Karen, just give me a line,
Yeah.
and bit by bit that's how it happened, whether it was doing stuff with you or other
Hmm.
trainings or the YouTube videos. Like, just give me one
Yeah.
tool, God, just give me one thing to try here and see if that works.
Yeah.
So that's how I Laura was a little bit more systematic, and I think got trauma, like when she encountered trauma based care and parenting, it just made sense to her
Hmm.
on a global level,
Hmm.
and she has more trauma. Well, that's not fair to say. She has different trauma in her family background
Hmm.
that meant I think she was more wired to see this
Yeah.
as a need. I'm
Yeah.
more the denial family background, so
Yeah.
we're fine.
Yeah.
We're just totally fine.
Yeah.
Everything we've always done is going to work here, and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Um, so in the questionnaire you filled out, you said, now I see trauma everywhere.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So
Mm.
what do you
Oh yeah.
do with that? What do you do with that?
Right. Yeah. Seriously. the world needs trauma-informed care.
Mhm.
What do I do with that? I think, well, the first thing is just recognize it.
Mhm.
You know, I still sometimes miss it, even
Mm.
with college students, and
Mhm.
have to stop and realize, oh, wait a minute here. This is like a 23-year-old trauma kid.
Mhm.
Change your approach, right?
Yeah.
And so I still sometimes miss it. Um, I think the seeing it everywhere. I mean, isn't trauma informed care kind of good for everybody,
Yeah.
regardless?
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, no matter if you're trauma or not trauma or whatever level trauma you're coming from or
Mhm.
dealing with, isn't trauma informed care like the best
Mhm.
care we can give? And so I feel like the more we can lean into that with everybody, the more we can look at every human being and say, like, you are bearing God's image. You are also bearing a past that I don't know about,
Mhm.
and that's affecting your choices, and that's affecting
Mhm.
who you are today. Um, I wish I could say I went through life with exactly that lens, maybe on good moments of good days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you hold space for, though, that there are still so many people that
right.
either don't get it or don't wanna get it?
Yeah,
How do you hold
right,
space for that?
right. Because we have to do that too.
Yeah.
We have to do that too. Um, yeah. How do you hold space for that? We try not to diagnose. We try not to diagnose especially the young adults we work with, because that's
Yeah.
not our job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we ask questions
Mhm.
like, "Hey, when you told me that story about maybe your mom or your dad or that thing that
Mhm.
happened to you or something like that, like, do you think that's in play here?" Like, we just try to ask
Mhm.
the question. We're not trying to plant stuff or diagnose. Like, we're not
Mhm.
practitioners, but like, just just trying to at least ask the question. Like,
Mhm.
hey, is something going on here that maybe? And honestly, some young adults are like, no, no, this
Yeah.
my past is my past. It doesn't affect me. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so you just love them anyway and
Yeah.
go on and know that I wasn't recognizing my trauma or
Mhm.
anything at that age either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally.
And so, right. So you just sort of go, well, we just love them anyway. And when they're ready to talk about that or recognize that, that's awesome. We'll be here to
Mhm.
support them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Help them with resources. Yeah.
Is that different with with your kids? Like,
Mm,
not your college students, but your kids?
yeah. The kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids, the ones we're legally responsible
Yeah.
for.
There you go.
um, yeah, it is different, I think.
Mhm.
Our kids to a kid, our kids are so different, that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I mean, what kids aren't, but like they're very different. One commonality I would say between all four of our kids is that they do not like talking about their trauma.
Mm.
They don't want to acknowledge it.
Mhm.
And when we get even close, and we're so careful, right?
Mhm.
But like when we get close, boy, they react. They
Mhm.
really react. And I would say that's way dialed up in the teenage years. They
Yeah.
just do not want to do that. And they get really um they get really reactive to us asking.
Mhm.
Um we have our new two, our
Mhm.
sibling pair, like we are really not allowed to talk to them about their birth parents.
Okay.
And you got to know that we're not like super supportive of birth parents. Like we
Yeah.
love our birth parents. We don't talk badly or
Yeah.
disparage birth parents with our kids or anything like that. But if anything comes close to acknowledging some trauma there or some
Yeah.
pain there, or even just grief of them not being with parents,
Mhm.
it's like we get an immediate like electric like no, not allowed,
Mm.
not
Mm.
allowed. Now it's been from the start.
Yeah.
9 and 10, we were told by the kids in that first year, like, you do not get to ask us about our mom and dad.
Mm.
And that's a 9 and 10-year-old
Yeah.
basically saying, like, this, I'm going to draw a line around this in my life and say, you don't get to
Yeah.
step into this box.
Yeah.
So we dance a really careful dance
Mhm.
with those two around birth parents. The other two are in some degree of, well, everyone's in relationship with birth parents in our
Yeah.
family. The other two, it's not as difficult, um, but they don't like to talk about trauma or stuff in the
Yeah.
past. Yeah.
How do you grow that window of tolerance for them? Like you drew your
Oh,
little box here. How do you grow that even
how do
just
you
a little bit?
yeah. Oh man, that's such a good question, Melissa. How do you grow that box? Um, Man, I don't know. I mean, I'm so grateful for therapists, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not their parents and they have a different toolbox than we do and different relationships with our kids. So they're able to step into that box.
Yeah.
Um, and we just have to trust sometimes that those conversations are happening in therapy
Yeah.
that we're not getting, and that's
Mhm.
hard. Of course we would love to have those conversations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to really be there and everything. I swear this whole generation of kids is going to grow up and complain about how often their parents ask them how they were
I
feeling or how
know.
their relationships are going. I'm like, do you know how much we wanted our parents to ask
I
us
know. I know. Yeah.
that?
It's a
Right?
shift.
So some of it's a generational pendulum
Mhm.
shift, but we just have to trust that some of that's going on in therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that maybe someday they'll let us into that box,
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I feel like some of the tools, some of the trauma, trauma informed care tools, um, they're the same whether whether we get in that box, whether they let
Mhm.
us in or not.
Or not. Mhm.
We still parent the same way, mostly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure if they would let us into the box, those would be some good and helpful conversations. But really, at the end of the day, it doesn't change much in terms of the parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
Um,
think. Let me put in. I think.
yeah.
Before- Yeah.
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 Um, I am gonna kind of shift gears slightly
Yeah. Sure.
because reading through your questionnaire, you said one of the things you love talking about right now is making room for queer kids
Yes. Yeah. Love
and
talking
their
about that.
stories.
Yeah.
And I really think this goes right along with what we're talking about.
Yeah. It is not
Okay.
disconnected. It is not. No.
So, can we talk about this?
Oh
I
gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so I
Absolutely.
just I just want to start by saying, like, I have seen this so much in schools, in the churches, in society. Although I do think we're taking little baby steps in a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
direction as
Yeah.
society. And I also would say even 5+ years ago was in a different space and probably was
Mm.
one of those people. And I would wholeheartedly say that you and Laura played a huge role in
Oh.
helping me as I'm kind of on my
Mm.
moving in a new direction and trying to
Oh,
do
that's sweet.
better, right? Like this is
Yeah.
part of how do we stop generational trauma? Well, it's not just in our homes. This is
Right.
bigger than that.
It's
And I
way
feel
bigger.
like this is a piece of it. So,
Oh yeah. Totally. Well, just so you don't have to say it, I'll say so I'm gay, and you know that, but your
yeah,
listeners may not know that. And that's not a new thing.
yeah.
That's something that I can trace back to like age 7 or 8.
Hmm.
Some inklings, some questions around orientation. I stayed deep in the closet.
Hmm.
Northwest Montana is not like
Hmm.
LGBTQ plus
Really?
haven. Yeah, I know, shocking,
Yeah.
especially like in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, no, I was
Yeah.
deep in the closet,
Hmm.
right? And no space at church for that. No space anywhere.
Hmm.
No space anywhere for that. So I was deep in the closet. Literally the closet. I would like rage cry in
In the
my
closet.
closet, like
Mm.
physically in my closet, not even thinking about the symbolism of that, right? But I would like
Hmm.
rage cry for God to like, please make me stop liking boys. Please make me
Mm.
straight. And
Hmm.
that never happened. I
Yeah.
prayed that prayer for half my life
Mm.
and it didn't happen. And so it was a growing sense in my mid 20s, my young
Hmm.
adult years, when I was like, this isn't changing.
Hmm.
And what am I going to do with that?
Hmm.
So lots of stories. I'm kind of skipping over lots of
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I started to realize, oh, I've been pretending like there's been no trauma in my life.
Hmm.
But that's because I've just been hiding it back there in the
Yeah.
closet all
Yeah.
these years. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's a
So,
piece of trauma
yeah.
informed care. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do we make space? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How do we, and we need to, oh man, we need to. Um, So I think lots of ways
Mhm.
for sure. And let me say this right up front, like, we can make space for queer kids regardless of where we're at theologically,
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
Christians,
Yeah.
like regardless, like you can be, or not, if you're not even sure where you're at theologically as Christian,
Yeah.
like the care that kids need and the specific care that queer kids need is the same whether you're like a traditionalist on the topic of same-sex marriage, and that's where we are. Like we're a
Mhm.
mixed orientation marriage. I'm gay or straight. We have certain convictions around traditional marriage, but we have so many people in our lives who are affirming of same-sex marriage, and we love them,
Mhm.
and gay and straight folks, right? And the care and the making space is really the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the church is missing right now. They're thinking, I think the church is so afraid, Melissa, that if we make space for these kids, that we have to sacrifice theologically or we have to shift theologically.
Mhm.
Some churches have.
Yeah.
Some churches had to shift theologically to make space. There are also churches that haven't shifted at all theologically that are making good space.
Mhm.
And those stories don't get told very often. What what concerns me are churches that aren't making space at all for these kids.
Yeah.
What that does to the kids. Like
Mhm.
when you grow up with a message that you are not loved,
Yeah.
it does enormous damage.
Mhm.
And we all know that.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to queer kids and what we grow up with around that messaging, it goes
Yeah.
so deep that the time has come, and it's past time, but we still have good work to do. The time has come to make more space
Yeah.
for kids in our churches, in our schools, um, in our homes.
Yeah.
And it's it's not. It takes work.
Mhm.
It's not terribly difficult work. It's work that scares a lot of people, but I think it's deeply gospel centered work, regardless of where you come from theologically on it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Um, yeah. I think because I kind of have seen both worlds of the way the schools are, uh,
yeah,
the way that the church is. Like I've, and I'm going to just say the big church, right?
sure, yeah,
Because
capital C, sure,
yeah, the big
yeah,
church.
yeah,
But also society and like even people who wouldn't say they're religious are really harmful.
yeah,
And it just like the word that comes, it's just gross. It's
yeah,
gross that
yeah,
people think they can treat other people that way.
yeah, and
And
dehumanize people that way.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Um, and it's hard because then it's like, well, how do you change a whole mindset? Like, how do you change the whole Big C church? How do you change the school system? How do you change a
right,
whole group of people who are hateful people, right? That
yeah,
are raising their kids to be hateful people.
yeah,
And
because that happens.
I don't know. Like,
Oh, it's
what
so
do,
hard.
what do you
I mean,
do?
I think you start where you always start, right? You look around and you go, who's around me, right?
Yeah.
Like what are my spheres here, and
Yeah.
who's around me? I mean, for me, it was substitute teaching in the schools,
Yeah.
right? And queer people find queer people.
Mhm.
We just do, and and so the queer kids would find me, and
Mhm.
even when they didn't know, and then they
Mhm.
would know,
Mhm.
and then there's a conversation, right?
Mhm.
And so subbing in Spokane, I was subbing in lower grades kind of thing, and up into middle school a little bit. Here I sub just occasionally in
Oh,
my
you
kids' high school.
do.
Yeah, not very often, but
That's
just
fun.
I did more last year. Yeah, actually, I'm
Okay.
subbing on Wednesday, and
Oh.
yeah, I know. I had to go get actually my fingerprints expired, and I that was
Oh
right before
no.
this. I was getting my. I know. I'm like, wait, don't you guys? My fingers
Aren't
haven't
they the
changed.
same?
Can't you guys just run those again? I had to
So
go in and
funny.
do the. I'm like, how many times have
I
we
know,
done
right?
this, right? With foster and everything.
Yes. Like, don't aren't they all the same?
Yeah, seriously, same fingers,
Yeah.
like okay. Well, like
Mm.
this. I'm just going to give you this picture. There's a subbing assignment that I never say no to
Mhm.
because it's the resource room. They call it
Mm.
the reading lab. They
Mhm.
call it the reading lab so the kids come, but it's the resource room.
Mhm.
So I never say no to sub when I get the call for the resource room, because I just hang there all day. That's all I
Yeah.
do. I just hang out in the resource room. And then kids come in who are either dysregulated from class,
Yep.
you know, and they just need a quiet place, or
Yeah.
they do need some specific help.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not that. It's just they need like a quieter space and someone safe to be with.
Yeah.
And hello, the queer kids come in because
Yeah.
they're getting triggered. They're not feeling like they're loved or belong where they're at, and they just need a space where they can do. And our school does a great job with queer kids. They do, but like sometimes those kids just need to know like there's a queer adult that I can
Mhm.
just go hang out with
Mm.
and be safe, and
Mhm.
be known. Even if we're not talking about all things queer, we're just together,
Mhm.
like, and they know I'm gay and I know they're not straight, and we can just kind of hang.
Mhm.
They know I'm going to respect their pronouns. They know I'm
Mhm.
going to respect their
Mm.
um, and we can do some math,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
or we can read something together, or we can just chat. Um,
Or they
and I
can
get
just feel seen and heard by you.
they can just feel seen and heard. Yeah,
Mhm.
just feel seen and heard. And you start to hear those kids' stories, and yeah, they're heartbreaking.
Yeah.
They're heartbreaking stories, and yeah, and you realize again, like there's not enough room
Mhm.
for these kids.
Yeah. Oh, you brought up pronouns, and I think that is also a really sticky topic that
It is.
people get caught up on. And
People really do.
I just, and I, so I just feel like if that's, why is it so hard? Why
Yeah,
is it so hard to just respect
I know.
what somebody is asking you?
It's a low bar, Melissa.
Yeah.
People, I'm just gonna go for it here. I Christians sometimes get so hung up on being right
Mm-hmm.
and defending territory that we stop loving. And
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I have all kinds of questions around trans kids
Mm-hmm.
and how should we go about things and how should we not go about things. I have all kinds of questions. I'm trying to learn, lots of
Mm-hmm.
questions, lots of concerns. But like honestly, respecting the the pronouns of trans kids that I
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
that's a low bar. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Yeah.
that doesn't have to threaten my theology. I
Right.
don't have to have everything, all things trans figured out
Yeah.
to just say, okay, those are your pronouns. That's your name.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take you as you come. I'm not going to
Yeah.
try to only take you if you shift for me. That
Yeah.
doesn't sound like Jesus to me. Like, I'm going to take you as you come. And this gets practical. Like, I am around kids enough to I'm not able to guess their birth gender,
Yeah.
like their assigned gender. I can't guess that.
Yeah.
So, like, why would I not just use whatever pronouns and name they give me?
Basic. Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, for the sake of the gospel, why wouldn't I
Mm-hmm.
just say, "Hey, great, let's go with that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our church in Spokane, we didn't have to decide any kind of policy on trans kids or theology of queer people or anything like that, just to go, hey, we're going to go with names and pronouns
Mm-hmm.
as they're presented for the sake of the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we put a barrier up at that level? It's such a low bar. Let's just
Yeah.
go with the pronouns and names we're given that people present and move forward. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I like what you said there. It is about like us being right trumps anything else. And then we
Yeah.
forget like and not you and me, we, but like,
Yeah.
people because
Right.
we're human.
Right.
But
And who are
can
the people? Yeah.
I was just gonna say like, but can we at what point can we say, huh, maybe there is a different way and maybe it doesn't have to be right or wrong, but more I'm just going to love this person so they feel seen and heard. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Without strings attached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we get people to get there, Steve?
Oh, I know. How do we do it? How do we do it? I mean, the people like who missed Jesus? That I keep looking at the gospels and going, who are the people who just like missed who Jesus was?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time it was the religious people who were so concerned
Yeah.
about being right and defending their territory that they they didn't see and hear who Jesus was, right? They didn't
Yeah.
see him. They didn't recognize him for who he was because they were so dang concerned
Yeah.
about being right. And that's tragic.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to be so concerned about being right that I miss
Yeah.
Jesus in these kids, or I miss the opportunity to be Jesus to these kids. Like, I don't want to
Mhm.
miss that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that as a traditionalist, like, hey, like, I could be wrong
Mhm.
about I could be wrong about my sexual ethics and my marriage ethics. I could be wrong. But someday if I'm, standing in front of I will be standing in
Yeah.
front of Jesus
Yeah.
someday, not if, but like someday
Yeah.
when I'm standing in front of Jesus, I don't want to be like, "Hey, Jesus, I was super right about all my sexual ethics and marriage ethics, wasn't I?"
Right?
I would
Yeah.
rather be like, "Okay, I think I did the best I could. I failed a
Mhm.
lot at
Mhm.
loving people that you put in front of me."
Yeah.
You know, I think this is where we're at on sexual ethics, but I that's secondary to loving people
Mhm.
and making space for everybody.
Because okay, so am I hearing you correctly? What you're saying is, I think I'm right, but I might not be.
Oh, I might not be. Yeah,
And
I
so
might not.
then so like if we get so hung up on, no, this is the
Yeah,
right way, this is how you're supposed to be, but it turns out we're actually
yeah,
not,
yeah.
then we've missed.
And we've missed. Like, I want to love people regardless, and
Yeah.
then I can be wrong. Then I can be
Yeah.
wrong, right? And the Lord will have mercy on me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong. And but I don't want to be wrong about loving people.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to miss those. And I do. We all do. We all fall
Mhm.
down. But like, I would rather I would rather fall down on my theology than fall down on loving people. You know,
Mhm.
and I would
Mhm.
rather. My friend gave me this term. I would rather lead with my love, not with my theology. So often we feel like we have to lead with our theology, like make sure everybody knows exactly what we believe, and
Mhm.
then we can love later on. That
Mhm.
doesn't work.
Mhm.
Love, lead with that,
Yeah.
and we can talk about theology later. It's not unimportant. It's just we have to love.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I see a lot of parallels with like even parenting our kids, right? Like if we the parallel of being we need to connect first,
Oh,
right?
there you
If
go.
we
There you
are
go.
so focused on correcting our kids
Yeah.
and making sure that they do what, obey right away
Yep.
and
Beat all our expectations.
like you respect your elders, all of that stuff, then we miss the whole piece of connecting and letting them have a voice and feeling
Oh,
heard and seen. Like it's that whole thing,
oh, preach it, Melissa.
right?
That is so spot on. Yeah, that is so spot on. Yeah.
So I just I think I just get lost sometimes in trying to understand when people hear this stuff, how do they not just say, gosh, yeah, right? But there
Right.
is still a lot of people who push back on, all of this that we're talking about, whether it's parenting or queer kids or whatever. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, but there's actually like there's research, there's stuff
Yeah.
that says loving first and connecting first actually is where it's at because it's healthy and it helps our kids be healthier
Oh,
and
yeah.
heal and grow and
Oh,
so
yeah.
like I think I get so lost. Like how can people hear this stuff and be like, "Nah, I'm still good. I'm good."
I'm so I mean, didn't Jesus connect before he corrected?
Mhm.
Can we say that? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm just thinking through, like, I can't really think of a story where Jesus corrected someone and then loved them.
Yeah.
Like, he he led with his love. He connected.
Mhm.
He got to he was all about theology.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is actually the way I want you to live, or this is what the kingdom life looks like. But like, he just saw people first and
Yeah.
loved them so that they felt loved and safe and drawn to
Yeah.
him. And yeah,
It's hard too because I feel like I see people who are non-religious who do this better.
I know. Yep.
And obviously my faith has shifted over the years, but I still love Jesus. Jesus is my homie, right? Like he
Yeah.
saved me and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without Jesus. But
Right
I
on.
see people who are like, not there, and they're doing it better. I'm like,
Yeah.
why? You're, I mean,
Yeah.
good, like not
Good. Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
that's
Good.
bad.
That's
but
yeah.
like,
Absolutely right.
it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, I guess just one person at a time, right?
One at a time. Yeah. One at a time. Yep. And I guess for me to have grace for folks means I have to remember that, oh yeah, Steve, like you have done the correction before connection thing
Mm-hmm.
a lot of your life too, right? Like whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in parenting. I mean, I tried that,
Mm-hmm.
failed, didn't work. I tried it in pastoring too. I tried to be right, like just the right pastor about
Mm-hmm.
everything. That doesn't work. Like people need the people need
Yeah.
the connection first, and that's primary. And kids need that. Our kids need that. Every kid needs that. Queer kids really need that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so how do I think I mean, I feel like I just want to kind of narrow this down a little bit.
Sure.
Like, how do we make space for our kids from trauma,
Yeah.
which also is, queer kids, which also is kids who are in foster care. It's like all of that. Like if we say this big umbrella of,
Big umbrella. Yeah. Hmm.
right, kids who have experienced trauma or are experiencing trauma.
Right.
If there's people that are listening that are just like, yeah, how can I help? What can I do?
Yeah.
What do we tell them?
Yeah. Wow. Um, yeah. Where do we start? I think we say first of all, hey, it's hard. It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So good for you for attempting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And asking and then we say like, hey, there's help.
Yeah.
There's good resources out there. Like there's good, solid resources. There's TBRI and there's a lot of other things, but like there's some good resources out there for you. Let's get you connected, right?
Yeah.
And I remember pretty early in the TBRI training stuff that like it's really hard to parent with trauma informed care unless you're honest about your own trauma.
Yeah.
Whether that doesn't mean your kids need the trauma dump story,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that, like deal with it, like do the work, do the
Yeah.
therapy yourself, right?
Yeah.
Do that. Like I am a better parent when I'm in therapy. I'm more trauma informed for others when I'm
Mm-hmm.
attending to my trauma
Yeah.
and what that's done to me. And so it's not just a me first mentality, but it is sort of the okay, the plane's going down, get the oxygen mask on
Mm-hmm.
you,
Yep.
so you're alive enough to get the oxygen mask on these little ones right here or these whoever's right here.
Yeah.
Like get it on so you can get them the help they need. And I think trying to get them the help they need without getting the help you need never works for very long.
Right.
Yeah. So do your own work. I mean, the work on yourself, get help
Yeah.
for that. And then that's going to help. That's going to help other people too. Right. And
Yeah.
then get the tools. There's good tools out there. I am so not an expert, Melissa. You know so much more than me. I've learned so much from you about
Oh.
trauma and care. But those tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're tools. Um,
Yeah.
they can be overwhelming. So I think the other thing I've told so many other folks who are getting into foster parenting, especially, is like one thing at a time. Just learn
Yeah.
one thing, try it, implement it, see if you can incorporate it into your life and into your parenting. And then the next thing,
Yeah.
you
You
can't
can't do an
grab the
overhaul.
toolbox and use every tool at once, just one
No.
tool at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just talking with a couple earlier today and was saying just that, which is um, I'm giving you a bunch of tools for your toolbox, but I'm
Yeah.
not expecting you to use them all right now. Like
Right.
where you have them. And so now you're
Yeah.
going to pull the tool out that you need at the right
Yeah.
time. And a year from now, a lot of this is going to feel very like second nature. You're still going to have struggles. There's still going to be stuff that you're learning. There's still going to be tools you haven't used yet,
Yeah.
but it takes time. It doesn't happen in 8 weeks. It doesn't happen in 90 days or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Sourdough takes time.
Look at
Trauma
that.
informed care takes time.
Look at
Like
that parallel.
I do like that. I just pulled that up. Yeah. It does take time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good wisdom, Melissa. Just like slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One day at a
And
time.
lose the perfection. None of us are going to be perfect parents. So just,
Nope.
you're going to make mistakes every day, every hour of the day parenting. So just, yeah,
And that's okay.
that's
It's
okay.
it's what we do with it when we make the mistake, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What was the, okay, I could totally be misquoting now. So tell me if you remember this. Circle of security. So
Yeah.
switching models for a moment.
Mhm.
Um, Circle of security said something like, in their in their research, like if parents can kind of maybe, there are lots of qualifiers, kind of maybe do the right thing about it 33% of the time, like
Uh-huh.
1/3 of the time,
Yep.
your kids will be okay.
Yeah. That's it.
And I heard that in state. I think that was in the state training. I heard that, and I was
Probably.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm shooting for 1 out of 3,
Yeah.
and
That's it.
that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when we talk about like in TBRI, when we talk about the 4 levels of response, when we are
Oh,
talking about correcting, like
yeah.
we're just shooting for 80% even there, which is
Yeah.
a higher percentage, but even
Yeah.
that is like you're not there's nowhere ever that anybody said this tool right here you have to do 100% of the time. Like
Oh,
there's
right.
always room for that because we want our kids to see what imperfection is. We want our kids to learn about rupture and repair.
Yeah.
Because what would they do if they didn't? They're going to go into life thinking they have to be perfect.
And that's a setup.
Yikes.
Yikes, for sure. Yeah. There's one way to set your kids up for
Yeah.
failure,
Yeah.
um, that they have to be perfect. Yeah, that's a good word. And on some level, okay, I'm, again, remember that I'm only parenting teenagers right now.
Yeah.
So, right, so I'm not thinking little ones here. On some level, on an appropriate level, our kids knowing some of our past, some of our
Hmm.
trauma stories. Like I came out to the kids a few years ago.
Hmm.
So we had to wait until our kids were ready for that so that they would
Hmm.
understand that. And we had to be really careful that um, that wasn't too mixed in with well, we didn't want our kids to think we were getting divorced or something like
Sure.
that,
Yep.
because that's the normal story when dad
Yep.
comes out. So
Yeah.
we had to be very careful about that. But we also had to be very careful that we weren't like putting our trauma on top of their trauma
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
soon. So we had to
Yeah.
wait. We had to wait until things were calm enough. Things were never calm, but calm enough
Yeah.
to do that. And but not just that, not just my orientation story, but Laura sharing about her past,
Yeah.
uh, and sharing stories with kids and about mistakes we've made,
Yep.
and boundaries that we've crossed,
Hmm.
and um, the consequences in life for that for us, but also the grace
Yeah.
that we experienced in those times too. And it's not like our kids are dying to hear these stories
I
or
know.
anything. They're not. I don't want you. We're all
Yeah.
around the fire at night telling our backstory. No. Oh gosh, they don't want to know. They
They're
don't
like,
want to know.
ah.
Oh, yeah. But occasionally there are windows where I see them like, and they kind of want to know. Maybe just a
Hmm.
little bit. Just a
Hmm.
little bit. Um, so I think making sure that your kids know, hey, we didn't do everything right
Hmm.
when we were 14, 15, 16, 17 years old either.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't do everything right since then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just giving them lots of room to make mistakes and be loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I oh gosh, I feel like I just want to keep talking to you, but I'm going to wrap this up because we just need to for time's sake.
You
So
bet.
I started to go
Hey, no
on it, but okay.
no problem.
So I'll just ask you two final questions. So the
Oh,
first one being, oh, look at that. My teenager's calling me. She's probably
oh,
like, what?
oh, hey, do you want to pause? You can pause.
No, I just have to decline her call because otherwise it's going to
Oh,
affect our Zoom. Oh
my,
no.
yeah, my
Okay.
phone does that too. I'm
Yep.
like, what?
She probably just wants a ride home. She doesn't want to walk. Um, okay, so the first question being, what do you wish more people thought about with adoption? So I know we've kind of talked about a lot of
Oh,
different things today, but I
yeah.
am curious because I do think that that is important for us to touch on.
What? Yeah. What do I? Okay. Um, I think what I wish people understood or thought about more with adoption, it is the whole story.
Mhm.
People, I'm talking about non-adoptive families when
Mhm.
they ask about our story or something
Yes.
like that.
Yep.
Oftentimes people only want the happy ending, and
Yeah.
they only want resilience and redemption, which
Mhm.
great, love
Mhm.
those R words. Um, but like the whole story, right? Birth parents, like
Mhm.
that's we don't have kids without birth parents.
Mhm.
So let's not take them out of the story because they're
Yeah.
part of the story.
Yeah.
And regardless, and again, I'm not pretending that that's always easy or anything. It's super
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's super not for us either. We're in some throes right now with birth parents. Not us against birth parents, but like
Yeah.
kids and interact. We're in the
Yeah.
years of like, hey, our kids are in pretty constant social media contact
Yeah.
with
Yep.
parents. That's, let's just say, that is super complicated,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
sometimes that is an emotional roller coaster. Oh my word. We could do a whole podcast on that one,
Yeah.
right?
I know.
So, but that is part of their story.
Mhm.
And knowing them, and I'm not pretending that our there's lots of qualifications here, but like knowing them is part of their story, and acknowledging that. So I think oftentimes people just want to see these as our kids and our kids alone.
Yeah.
And we're trying to remind people they're not just our kids.
Mhm.
They're the Lord's kids. Let's
Mhm.
remember that. But they're also these birth parents' kids, and they were their kids before they were ever our kids. And
Mhm.
let's not cut them out of the story. So
Yeah.
I think I'm constantly trying to remind people, like, think about and ask about the whole story.
Mhm.
Ask adoptive families about the whole story, not just the happy endings and the redemption
Mhm.
and what's building resilience and growth mindset. I'm not a super growth mindset kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, growth mindset people. I love you.
I
I'm
think you
just,
actually are. You
am
just
I? Okay.
yeah, I think
All
you
right.
are.
Okay.
Well, but what about the people that maybe are looking at adoption or
Yeah.
are faced with, is this something for us?
Yeah.
What do
And
we
then they're
say to
in there.
them? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, I would say, first of all, like, awesome. Glad you're looking into this. It's not for everybody,
Mhm.
and that's okay too. Sometimes people feel pressured into it
Mhm.
because of like of the problem. The problem's big, and we want to do something about the problem. That's
Mhm.
awesome. A lot of people, anybody can help with adoption,
Mhm.
right? Whether they're adoptive parents or not, they can
Mhm.
support. They can be part of the team. We need teams. Oh my word,
Mhm.
adoption, and especially foster adoption. We need teams around us. So
Yeah.
anybody can be part of the team if you want to help. Um,
Yeah,
it's
you
not
and
for
I
everybody.
we're taking applications, right?
Making applications. Call us.
Do you wanna be on our team?
There are openings. There are openings now. Call. Um, Number on the screen.
Yep.
Um, but it's not for everybody. But if it is for you, I would tell those folks, like, remember that it's a calling.
Mm.
Like, it's not just about your skill set. It's not just about your abilities to love kids coming from hard places. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, it's not just about the trainings you're going to do and the tools you're going to get. Those are awesome too. But it has to be a calling. And
Mhm.
um, we, in our toughest times, we just have to stop
Yeah.
and remember that Jesus called us into this. And it was, for us, it was super clear.
Yeah.
And we have the gift. We've never had to question that. We've questioned everything else.
Mhm.
But at the end of the really hard days, and we have some really hard days,
Yeah.
Laura and I look at each other, and first of all, we say, we have a line. You need those lines if you're going to do
Yeah.
this with a partner. We have those lines where we look at each other and we go, I wouldn't do this with anybody else.
Yeah.
We say that. And then we say, remember that Jesus called us.
Mhm.
He called us into his family. He called these kids into our family. And we know that. And everything might be falling apart. But that calling, um, that's still there. So
Mhm.
I guess I tell folks who are thinking about this, like, pay attention to the call. There's going to be some great days ahead. There's going to be some not great days ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to need Jesus with you on this.
Mhm.
Um, there were nights when I swear I could have turned around in our house when we were holding kids in catatonic PTSD states that I could have turned around, and I think Jesus would have been right there.
Yeah.
Like I think I would have seen his face because I felt his presence
Hmm.
so strongly. So I'm sorry, we just couldn't do this
Yeah.
without Jesus. And so I'm not saying that non-Christians can't adopt and do
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
things, but this is a Christian podcast, right? Is this a Christian podcast?
It's everyone.
Whatever, it's for anybody. Okay,
Yeah. It's
I
for
just know
anybody.
in our lives we couldn't have done this without Jesus, and
Yeah.
so I do tell people that.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So 3 resources that you would recommend.
Oh, okay. I would recommend TBRI. Good
Okay.
Lord,
Yeah.
go there. Watch the YouTubes. That's where we start. We started with the
Yeah,
YouTubes.
that's
We didn't
good.
have time for the training right away. We got there eventually, but like, and we
There's
got there
so
with
much
you.
on
But like,
YouTube.
there's so much on YouTube, and
Yep.
sometimes I just needed one video, and then a day to try it,
Yep.
and then a day to watch the YouTube video again and try it
Yeah.
again. So
Did you ever
TBRI.
watch any of the Cindy Lee videos on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Oh, I
That's
will
okay.
link those in the show note too, because
Oh, please do.
she has some really good videos.
Oh,
She's
please do. Because mine are probably old. I was using the old Carn Purvis
yeah,
videos
those are good too.
from
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah. Um,
Cindy Lee's are a little bit newer.
oh, please link
So
those.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I
I'll
will.
look at those too. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I would say okay, second resource. I would say I'm gonna go the queer route here. I'm gonna say Revoice.
Okay.
They're an
Yep.
organization for side B Christians, which is more traditionalist, but
Okay.
really they're an organization that is just making space for queer people in the
Okay.
church, and they're doing a marvelous job. And I have affirming friends who are part of Revoice, and
Okay.
they have different theologies maybe than I do, but we're all about caring for queer people, and
Yeah.
especially kids. So Revoice
Okay.
is just doing wonderful work. Um, well, see, now I'm on that train. So I think for the third one, I'm
Yeah,
going to
that's
say
totally
the Center for Gender, Sexuality, and Faith.
okay.
They are doing some marvelous equipping. And again, they're going to be more from the traditionalist viewpoint, but I just don't know of stuff out there that is really helping Christians understand trans kids and
Hmm.
like practical ways of making space for them in your youth groups, in your churches, and your families, and
Hmm.
loving them.
Yeah.
There's just really practical things there that
Okay.
they're doing a wonderful job. So that's the Center for Faith, Sexuality, and Gender. I think I got that right.
Okay.
We
I'll look it
we
up.
can link
I'll
that
get
too.
it
Yeah,
all. Yep, it'll all be linked. Yeah.
yeah. There's three.
Okay. Thank you. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you taking this time and sharing your heart. And I think that I might have to have you and Laura on next time
Right? It's a
because
lot more
how
fun with
fun
Laura.
would that be, right?
We'd have a lot of fun. We'd have a good time. We'd
Yeah.
have such a good time.
And all of the listeners need to meet Laura too, because she's pretty great.
Absolutely. Nah,
So,
she's awesome. She's just awesome. And so are
yeah.
you. This has been really fun. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for what
Okay.
you're doing. Thanks for doing
Yeah.
this and all the things you're
I
doing.
love this. This is like so much
Good.
fun. And I wish I could get paid to do this, but it's fine. If anyone listening wants to pay me, great. I will take it. I can put
There
my
you go. Patrons
PayPal in
needed.
the,
Yes.
in the show
There are
notes.
openings for patrons. Yes.
Yeah. But it's so much fun. So, okay.
Good.
Thanks, Steve.
Tell John hi.
I will.
Yeah.
He's, yeah. I told him that we were going to talk today. So here, I'm going to
Okay.
stop recording just a sec.